Have you ever had Gorgonzola cheese and the finest wine?
Yeah, absolutely not. But I've definitely had a Club Melt and a Yingling beer in my day, so it's pretty
Same
nice.
thing.
Yeah, 100% same thing. Hey guys, welcome back to Hometown Commander. It is so glad to see. Oh, we can't see you. That's right.
We're so glad to let you hear us.
Yeah. Of course, with you as always is your host Mikey, and with me as always is
your boy Millzy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Today is our episode 3 of Head to Head, where we take a commander, or in this case,
a strategy.
But we'll get there when we get there. Millzy, man, today is the first day of 2022. And let me tell you, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 2022.
I'm not. I'm an old man now.
You are an old man now, yeah. 100% old man.
But you know what makes me not feel old?
What's that, man?
Rogue Energy.
Oh, snap! Wow! Tell me more about this Rogue Energy. I want to feel young.
I love that we just shamelessly plug Rogue Energy, and I'm in for it. You can use the link down in the description.
Yeah.
Or our code, Hometown, all one word, all capitals, HOMETOWN.
Ooh, look at that.
Go over to Rogue Energy, get some powdered energy powder to put in your water in your shaker cup, give you that good energy, no sugar, all the vitamins you love. We use it. We've said in the past, and we'll say it again, we do not want to ever promo something on this podcast that we wouldn't use. Yep. Rogue is something that we both enjoy. Hopefully, maybe later, we're going to be trying the cookies and cream shake flavor, which is going to be some fun.
Yeah, man. I ordered a starter kit from them, which gives you a shaker cup and 6 packets, I believe.
And it is a shaker cup of your choice, which is really cool. It is a shaker cup of your choice. I have tried some other companies in the past, and you don't always get your choice. Yep. I like that Rogue gives you your choice of shaker cup. So if you want a small shaker cup, you can do that. If you want the tall boy shaker cup, you can get that.
I'm trying to open up my email so I can tell these wonderful people that I saved money.
I will always recommend, even if you, for the tall boy cups, which are I think 22 or 24 ounces instead of the 14 or 16 that are in the short cups, I always still use 1 scoop of powder or 1 packet of powder because, hey, a little extra water never hurts you.
For sure.
And it keeps you a little better hydrated. There are some flavors, as we've learned with our great popsicle, that are a little strong if you make them in the short shaker. But
I learned that yesterday, the hard way, or the better way. I don't know, man. It was a lot.
When it took you out. You drank it.
So I love grape flavored things. I know a lot of people don't, and I actually do enjoy grape flavored things. But man, like the first sip, I was like already going back to my like water pitcher or whatever, just like pouring more in there. I was like, no, not today.
And not every flavor's like that. I think grape popsicle is just one of those flavors.
Yeah.
I felt the same way about their cherry flavor. It was just really rough. It was really strong.
Yeah.
Where you just need a little more water. And there's been other flavors like I actively drink G Fuel. We don't have a sponsor link for that. I'm sorry, guys, but G Fuel has some flavors like that too that are just really strong.
Yeah.
I think it's just whatever flavor. Whatever flavors they use or however they make their flavors. Some of them can just be a little strong. But that's the really cool thing about getting a starter kit is you get to try all those flavors, see what you like, and then you can go back and buy the tubs. And that code works on everything.
But you know what's cool about grape popsicle? Is it turns your water purple.
Purple.
You know what else is purple?
I don't, Mikey. What is purple?
Try Discord is all purple.
It is.
We have a Discord.
It is kind of purple. You're right.
There's a link down.
Do we have a Discord, though?
We do have a Discord.
I'm just kidding.
It may not look active, but it is, I promise. I actually have posted in there, was it last night or this morning?
Yep, to all 4 of us that are... No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, to all 4 of us at this point in time.
We record.
At this point in time as we're recording, yes. The purple wonderfulness that is Discord, we have a link in the description down below where you can go join us. Come join us in the conversation. You don't have to talk about Rogue Energy with us for the next 25 minutes. I promise it's
Unless you want to.
Unless you really want to. But we love to talk to you guys or gals about anything and everything that you want to talk about when it comes to the format that we all know and love and hate. That is Commander. And that's what we made it for. We made it so we could build up a community. And Millzy, this is actually one thing that I kind of was wanting to talk to you about. Totally forgot until this very point. I hope you're okay with me saying this.
We'll find out.
You should be.
We'll find out.
You should be. What I really want to try to do with the Discord is to, like I just said, make a community. That's a big word for me personally, community, because it's not just people coming together and having conversation. To me, it's people coming together and having a great time and having good positive energy. And that's really what I want to build with this Discord, is to build a community of just huge positive energy. Because I think that's so good for us as people in this day and time and whatnot. I mean,
and as players too.
And as players too, exactly. Like, we just had a couple of games. We sat down, we played a couple of 1v1s, which, let's be serious, in Commander kind of sucks because I feel like you don't get that fullness of what your deck is trying to do all the time. But what was cool is we still sat down. I smacked you, but then you turned around and smacked me, which was great. I think that was really good because I don't think any one of those games where I was like overly confident, and I don't think any one of those games you were either. But I don't think there's the opposite side of that coin where I don't think I was too bogged down when I was losing, and I don't think you were too bogged down.
Yeah, I mean, both games were really fun. I think the benefit was I played 2 new decks. Well, one was kind of reimagining of an old deck, and the other one was completely new, and it was fun for me to kind of have no pressure and be able to kind of just try. The point I want to make on the Discord is if you at hometown, that's going to be me, Millzy. You also have Mikey in there with a couple Y's at the end.
Yeah.
If you want to at him over in our Discord, there is a channel over in our Discord called Head to Head Discussion. Every Saturday, we're going to be active in there, talking with you guys about the episode when you hear it. After you hear the episode, just come on over to that and let us know if we did good, if we did bad, what cards we should be playing.
If Millzy dropped his mic again.
If I drop my mic again. But my hope is that that text channel will be a cool way for us to have conversations on Saturday about our episodes. And hopefully you guys can tell us how good or bad we did.
Sweet. Yeah, man. So we're going to be super excited about that. We're even more excited today to talk about these. Oh, this is going to be great.
We're breaking our rules, Mikey, aren't we?
I'm so excited to say this. For these 2 different commanders for today's head-to-head. Oh, snap. Millzy, I would love it if this was your idea. I'm going to give you the floor. What in the world are we doing right now?
So, when we originally started with the idea for head-to-head, which at this point our listeners will already have heard 2 beautiful head-to-head episodes.
If they haven't, go back, listen to the first 2.
Should be 2 more active. And those will be where we did the same commander.
Yep.
We did Tovalar and then Runar Stromkirk.
Yeah.
But for today's episode and wink wink nudge nudge, next week's episode.
Oh snap! He is.
We're actually not just doing the same commander. We're going to do the same archetype. Well, or the same tribe, or the same
strategy.
So today, when we decided to start with our head-to-head series, we decided to do commanders from Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt, right?
Yeah.
The 2 most recent sets that came out, our most recent trip to Innistrad. And when we were making our list of commanders we wanted to do, I noticed that, you had Lenore written down for humans because of the precon, and we also had Kyla written down. We had Sigarda. You have all these green-white humans commanders that have come out in the last 2 sets. They all kind of work together, but they're all a little bit different in what they do.
Right.
And I said, Mikey, wouldn't it be more fun if instead of we doing the same commander, what if we picked each side of the main 2 strategies for humans this time around, and we played with it? So today, we each are representing one of the 2 strategies. Mikey, you're representing Coven.
Yep.
Which there are multiple commanders that care about Coven.
Yep.
And I'm representing the training / +1/+1 counters strategy that we've gotten in the new sets.
Yeah, so let me kind of go a little bit on the same track here. We're highlighting one thing, but you're going to see a lot, or going to hear a lot of the same cards overlapping in each other's decks because these archetypes are so similar to each other. But you're going to see these strategies differ in a lot of ways, and you're going to see how our brain kind of 2 different brains really wrapped around these concepts, and I'm really excited about this. So,
well, I think, Mikey, we determined that there are 5
viable
humans commanders that came out in the last 2 sets. You have Lenore in the precon, and then 4 other legendaries. I think we're both playing all 5 of those legendaries in our decks because they're all very good for our strategy.
For sure.
It's just we're choosing to take our strategies 2 different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I could go off the list real quick. So you have Sigarda, Champion of Light is one of them. You have Catilda, Dawnheart Prime is one of them. Kyler, Sigardian Emissary. Lenore, Autumn Sovereign. And our boy himself, Mr. Torrens, Fist of the Angels. All are legendaries. They're all green-white. They all do something along the same lines of, hey, I'm going to help out the humans, and it's going to be fun. So
I think a good place to start there, Mikey, is, so we divided those 5 commanders into 2 categories.
Yeah.
You got either Sigarda or Lenore, because they both are Coven commanders. And I got Kyler, Catilda, or Torrens. Those were the 3 that kind of fit the +1/+1 strategy.
Right.
So I guess the question is, Mikey, who did we pick?
Okay.
Who did you pick as your commander for either between Sigarda or Lenore?
Well, so I chose Sigarda, Champion of Light. She is a 4/4 flyer with also trample.
So flample.
She is a 1 colorless mana, 1 green, 2 white. She has humans you control get +1/+1. It's great in a humans deck. Hello. She has Coven. Whenever Sigarda attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a human creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Human. The word comes up a lot. I will probably say humor at some point because we're saying human so much.
So the big thing that, the big part about Coven, just so we set it right here, Coven cares about you having 3 or more creatures with different powers.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what their toughness is.
Right.
They just have to have different powers.
Exactly, and you can have more. I figured that out early on playing the Lenore pre-con. You actually pointed this out, which was hilarious. I had like 5 creatures out at one point, and I'm literally counting like all 5, making sure all 5 of them had different powers, and you were like, no, you're fine, you only need 3. And I was just like, cool, okay.
Yeah. So I, Millzy,
yes, who did you pick?
Got given the +1/+1 route. I actually kind of half built a list for both Kyler and Catilda. I actually, really, I was down to it a little bit. But after looking at both the strategies, I decided to go with Kyler, Sigarda Emissary. And I think I went with Kyler because he just does a little bit of what I want better. And Catilda just fits so well in strategy. So Kyler is a 2/2 human cleric for 3 a green and a white. So he's a little overcosted for what his power and toughness are, but not for his ability.
Oh, no.
It says whenever another human, not non-token human, just when another human enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on Kyler. Mm-hmm. And other humans get +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Kyler. I'm now realizing that it doesn't say that. It just says each counter on Kyler.
Yes.
So if you gave it a flying counter or a trample
I was
counter,
about to say that,
it would count too. So instead of going for different powers and toughnesses, Kyler, I think, cares a little bit more of us going a little wider and giving +1/+1 counters to him and our old team together.
Yeah, he is just good, and it annoys me how good he is. I'm still debating on making him a commander of my own personal deck for green-white humans, or just saying you're going to go in the 99 into a now absent human deck. I don't know what I'm doing with that deck. Somebody please tell me what I should do with my humans deck.
Your humans journey has been very intriguing so far.
Oh, I love it so much. But let me just tell you as a listener, all 5 of those commanders that I just listed are in both mine and Millzy's deck. And like I already said, they're just really good. Like, seriously, in any green-white humans deck, I think I'm going to put those 5 into the list automatically. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, Lenore's probably the weakest out of the 5. Yes, but 1, that's a free +1/+1 counter every single combat turn, yes. Also, if you're pumping that Coven, which you should be because you're getting the +1/+1 counter, you draw a card.
Which is never bad in a card game.
Thank you. So I don't see her being so bad for a 4-drop. Yes, she's a 0/4, but look at it this way, and I've seen this a lot when I play her, or when I have played her, is she doesn't get the attention that she probably deserves. Actually, I can go one further and say that she just doesn't get the attention, and be okay with saying that. because she doesn't. No one is wanting to bolt her. No one is wanting to spend the mana to try to get her off the field, because there's not that really big of a upside for somebody removing her. But there's just a lot of upside for me keeping her on the board.
She also really easily enables Coven, right?
Yes.
Because she starts at 0.
Exactly.
And 0 is a very uncommon power for any creature to have unless you're playing a wall or a defender.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that counts as a power.
Yep.
So
it does.
It's already one of your powers. If you play something like, I don't know, a card that both of us have, and I know I'm going too far here for a second, but I have to. If you play something like Join the Dance that says create 2 1/1 white human creatures, okay, you drop that, and then Lenore pumps one of those. There you go. You have Coven.
You have Coven from 2 cards.
And now you're drawing a card. Look at that. That's great.
I think Lenore definitely just creates a interesting route. Like, we would use Lenore differently, right?
Yeah.
In my list, I'm using Lenore to put that +1/+1 counter on Kyler.
Yeah.
Because then it pumps the rest of my board. Whereas you're looking to help enable your Coven to get, to get other effects. Because remember, Lenore is not the only creature in your deck that has Coven.
No, yeah.
There are, of course, a lot of other creatures that have Coven.
I mean, my Commander Sigarda has Coven, so of course.
What I think is really interesting is, in all reality, our 2 decks take the humans mechanic from each set, right? I'm playing with just a little bit of training in my deck, and you're playing with just that little bit of Coven in your deck, and we're using both of those, to our. I'm sure you're still using training, just as I'm still using a little bit of Coven, but they're both those mechanics are built to help our strategies that we're trying to go down.
Agreed.
I think this is a very interesting episode of Head to Head, because we're no longer taking the same commander where maybe our lists look a little too samey because we're using all the same creatures or we're using all the same enchantments. In this case, we may share a few creatures. Like in our list, we share Maha, the Bredeguard Protector from Kaldheim, and we share a few other green-white human creatures. But our spell support is completely different,
right?
Because we're focused on different things.
Yes, for sure. One thing that I kind of also want to say before we go into like a winning strategy for both of our decks is what I kind of found was I could put any of those 5 in the commander slot and feel confident about my deck. Now, Kyler being the exception, really, because I'm not going as wide as I could be for him, but still being okay. And we're going to get into that a little more here in just a second of why I feel like I'd be okay with that. But first, Millzy, can you just explain to me what your monstrosity of a Who-Man's deck is trying to do for us?
That listener is a reference to the Moxfield link for our Moxfield account will be down in the description below. You can go over and see both of our lists. As we've said before in this series, please use them. Please edit them. Go try them out in your playgroup.
Yes.
Come beat them with us. Come beat us with them.
Yes.
But that is a link to the name of my deck. I've tried to come up with a witty name for each of my decks here on the Moxfield, but I am going as best of my way to go the traditional +1/+1 counters route. It's not true straight up +1/+1 counters. I think they're. We're still going wide with tokens, but again, Kyler enables us to go tall when we go wide because of his ability. But I am playing a lot of ways to make tokens, but I'm also playing a lot of ways to either put +1/+1 counters on all of my creatures or double the amount of +1/+1 counters that get put on my creatures.
Nice.
So we are playing different cards that will put either more or double the amount of +1/+1 counters. I'm playing the 2 most popular +1/+1 counter enchantments, being Hardened Scales and Doubling Season. Now, Doubling Season does double work in this deck, and the pun is intended, because it's also going to create twice the number of human tokens that I would create off of any other spell.
Yeah, that's true.
The third enchantment I'm playing for +1/+1 counters is Branching Evolution, which does the same thing, just puts twice the amount of +1/+1 counters. And then I am playing the Piece de la Resistance from Ikoria, the Ozolith, The Ozolith just really enables our strategy. It kind of helps protect those +1/+1 counters. If we get a board wipe, all of our +1/+1 counters go onto the Ozolith. And the Ozolith can definitely create some rough scenarios for people if they don't expect it.
Yeah. The Ozolith is annoying because I'm sitting over here thinking like, oh yeah, I can use a artifact destroy artifact spell, which is nice, but then in response you can literally just take those counters that are on the Ozolith and put them onto a creature. Yay.
And here's the big thing why the Ozolith is good. The Ozolith doesn't say when a creature you control dies, if it had any counters on it, put it on the Ozolith. The Ozolith says when a creature you control leaves the battlefield. That means exiled. That means going back to your hand. That means going to the graveyard. That means going back, although it's kind of a moot point, that means going back to the command zone, even though technically your commander will always go to another zone before it goes back to the command zone. Anytime it leaves the battlefield for any reason, those counters are getting pulled off. So your opponent can't just Swords to Plowshares and say, well, you don't get the counters. No, I do. They go back to... so the good part about the Ozolith is that it doesn't just say destroyed, man. It really allows you to, take those counters back and hopefully put them on another creature.
I stand corrected, actually. I just read the Ozolith. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all the counters to a target creature. My bad. You can destroy it with an artifact destroy spell, and
you lose the counters.
Have a good time, if you know what I mean.
My argument would say if you were to destroy the Ozolith in response to the trigger, I would probably guess the counters still go, but I would need a judge ruling on that. I don't really know how that works.
Oh, I would assume the counters would go bye-bye.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
It would be like a creature leaving.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my guess. So that would be your kind of window of response, basically, to it.
Sweet, man. So counters for days, and I don't mean the good blue counters. I mean the even better.
No, we mean the good counters, +1/+1 counters.
Oh, I was saying the even better +1/+1 counters. I like that a lot. Yeah. Man, I struggle so much with Kyler because he's so good. He's so good.
I think he really enables us to have the best of all of the worlds when it comes to humans. We don't just have to worry about one thing. We can kind of pick and choose our humans and have fun with them because we're going to get a benefit.
And I think that's what's really cool is, so to go in a little bit more depth. So I have Sigarda, Champion of Light. My strategy of winning is not going so much wide, but going quick to get Coven and just have fun with the Coven triggers. So my hope is that I'll have at least another Coven card in my hand, or excuse me, have one Coven card in my hand, have Sigarda ready to go, and then get both of them out as fast as I can, and like I said, just have a good time. So I'm using a lot of cheaper costing creature spells, mostly from 1 to 3. I do have a couple of 4s, or a few 4s, not a couple. But I'm trying to get as many of actual creatures out as I possibly can to get those triggers to kind of go. The way that I can easily do that is with Sigarda's Coven trigger herself, putting human creature cards into my hand and then just getting them out either that turn or the next turn if I have to wait, which would be unfortunate, but no big deal. I do have a lot of ways to continue to put pressure on the combat side of things with like Heroic Intervention, Fogs, Flawless Maneuver. So if people are trying to remove Sigarda or anything of that nature, I do have ways of protecting her, or at least trying to protect her, because there's always something that can just go wrong. Like I said,
I think we need to get in the habit of Commander players as saying that exact thing about protection. Not necessarily that we're always going to have the chance to protect, but we're going to try to protect.
Yeah, for sure.
Because just because you have a card or you may be able to play it doesn't mean that it's always going to do exactly what you think it's going to do.
Oh, dude, I was hoping that I would draw a protection spell in one of our games, and I didn't. I was like, okay, whatever. It happens. I think that's something that we, as to continue with it, I feel like that's something that we as Commander players sometimes try to get into the habit of, is we go, okay, so I know I have this card, this card, this card, and this card. So like, for instance, I have Fog, Heroic Intervention, Flawless Maneuver, and of course, the only Winds of Calcisma in my deck. Am I going to have one of those cards in my hand or draw one of them at any point in time? Maybe, but getting them is going to be very, very lucky, difficult, or awesome. I say awesome because if you have them, that's great. But really, they're just in there to kind of, like I said, help push the combat side of things. That's kind of what I'm trying to look for here, because I'm gonna have to swing with Sigarda if I want to do anything. And her having Flample is just so great. She's a 4/4 already, which I talked about this in our Tovolar episode. If you have a 4/4, you're not scary, but you are pretty scary. Because especially something with Flample, like that's pretty scary. That is dragon level scary.
Well, the problem is, most people, when it comes to flying blockers, have 1/1s, right?
Yes.
So most people will put a 1/1 or a 2/2 out there as their flying kind of protection. When you have Sigarda, who may be a 5 or a 6/6 with flying and trample, ooh, that's not a good block,
right?
Yeah.
So more or less pushing the advantageous attacks is where I'm looking to kind of pursue. I have like Dawnheart Wardens. Their Coven triggers at the beginning of combat on my turn if I control 3 or more creatures with different powers. All creatures I control get +1/+0 until end of turn. They also have Vigilance, so they're 3/3. If I swing with them, they're 4/3 with Vigilance. Now Sigarda becomes a 5/4 if I have her out. Like, these are just great little advantageous swings that I'm looking for. If I have, who am I thinking of? There he is. Yes. Okay. So one of our favorites, I could say one of our favorites, is Torrens. If I have Torrens out and his training ability, can you kind of explain training to our listeners, Millzy?
Yeah. So training as a mechanic, the way training works is training says whenever this creature attacks, so the creature with training, whenever it attacks with another creature that has a greater power than it gets a +1/+1 counter.
Right.
Before damage.
Yep.
So training is huge, especially in a deck where you can kind of stair step your power on your creatures. You're going to kind of always be getting, more and more power. The good part about Torrens is he has training.
Yes.
So hopefully you're attacking with something that has a bigger power and toughness than him.
Which I do, my commander.
Yeah. But the 1/1s that he creates also have training. So on any future turn, if you attack with Torrens and those 1/1s, hopefully both of them get buffed, and you're just going to continue to buff them together.
Correct. So that's pretty great. If you have Torrens out, if I have Torrens out, I have Sigarda out. Well, Sigarda is going to give Torrens +1/+1. So he's a 3/3, and he's going to swing with Sigarda, on my next turn, because obviously they don't have haste, because they're green and white. Who would give them haste? But they're going to swing my next turn, which is going to make him a 4/4. Make him a 4/4. She's going to have 4/4 with Flample. That's 8 damage coming your way, and I feel like that's pretty decent on a good swing. Like,
even if you don't have trample, that's still 8. That's still a lot to block.
Yes.
Because I think the thing you have to remember about a creature like Torrens is do you block Torrens or do you block the tokens he's creating, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of players fall into the pitfall of just blocking the tokens because they're like, well, I'll get it out of the way. Well, you want to block the source, right? You don't want to block the tokens if you can. I mean, I think that comes down to this thing we love talking about all the time, Mikey, right? Which is threat assessment.
Yes.
Torrens is the threat. The tokens are not the threat.
Correct.
So you kind of have to think about when you're blocking, if you're blocking an attack like that, what's the most important for next turn? Not just this turn, what's the most important for next turn? And so I think it's really easy there to just chump those 2/2s that are coming in with training. What you really want to do is worry about the Torrens, or what else do you have on the bat, So yeah, I mean it does what any good attacking deck wants to do, and that's push your advantage, and hopefully maybe your opponents will take some bad blocks.
So, advantageous attacks aren't the only thing. What are fun combos that your deck has that you would say are just going to be good?
Man, I had the opportunity to play this card in... so full disclosure, I have played this list in one game so far.
I walked in on that game.
Because I made the list for this episode, and I'll be honest, I hadn't really considered green white humans, and so I wanted to just see, is this list halfway decent, or did I make a piece of crap, or does this thing look halfway decent, right? Because that's the true thing of deck building, right? You put a list together and you go, this is great. Is it actually great, or is it? My opponent had, I believe, 6 or 7 creatures on his battlefield.
Oh, wow.
And I played a card called the Copper Coats. It's 2 and a white for an instant. It says you can pay 1 and a white more to cast this spell for each target beyond the first. But it says, choose any number of target opponents, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures your opponents control. So, I had Kyler out. When I used this called the Copper Coats on my opponent's end step, I created 7 1/1 humans, which gave Kyler 7 +1/+1 tokens. On my turn, I now had 7 8/8s to attack with.
Ouch.
On an opponent's end step, just think about that. Like, you think you're prepared for an attack, and then turns out you have twice the creatures to deal with. Now, I know I always make this caveat, and I feel like someone's going to make fun of this. But Zach, Millzy, that's Magical Christmas Land. How often are you going to be able to do that? Well, hopefully pretty consistently.
Well, so the thing to counter that, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, that's great. I think that's one thing out of many things that your deck can do that is awesome to hear and to see happen. There are many things that can help you in this regard. Like, I mean, I'm looking at one card right now, and I don't know if you have this in your combo wombo notes or not. I don't think you do, which is okay. Which is, we just talked about it. It's Hamlet Vanguard.
What such a good card.
Freaking card, dude. Hamlet Vanguard is 2 colorless, 1 green for a 1/1. And you're probably thinking, what? But listen, it has Ward 2. We ain't worried about that Ward 2. That's great, but we ain't worried about that. What we're worried about is when he enters the battlefield, with 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each other non-token human you control. Huh?
Could be 4, could be 10. I mean, it's a lot of tokens.
Well, you got to think of it like this. Like, so for me, I have Boros Elite, Champion of Parish. I have Din Protector. I have Giant Killer. I have Catilda Dawnheart Prime. I have I think those are all my only 1 or 2 drops. Oh, Avacyn's Pilgrim. So I'm already up to 6. If I have just those 6 out and then I play, I'm sorry, that's 12 +1/+1 counters you're putting on Hamlet. Like, the man's just great. So as 12 +1/+1 counters you're putting on him, he's going to become a 13/13 in my deck since I have Sigarda. Oh wait, I'm pretty sure you do as well. Humans get +1/+1, so now he's going to be a 14/14. Try swinging with a 14/14. Like, don't get me wrong, your 7 8/8s, that's great. I think that's wonderful, but they're token creatures, so they don't help Hamlet in this regard. Yep. But I just think that he is just a card that we're going to have to look at more consistently. I think a lot of people should look at him more consistently. The dude is just nutty.
I've kind of played into the tokens by trying to put cards in the list that give me advantage for tokens either coming in or playing around with it. So one of the big ones I have written down here is Cathar's Crusade. It's an enchantment for 5, 3 double white. It says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. If I make 4 or 5 human tokens in a turn, that's a lot of counters that are going to go on there. And the card that I have yet to see that I hope at some point I get to put down in the game, just because I think it's going to be a ton of fun, it's Harmonious Archon from Throne of Eldraine. It's for 6 mana. It's a 4 and double white. It's an Archon flying, so it is a non-human. It's one of the only non-human. It's one of 2 non-human creatures I have in my deck. It says non-Archon creatures have base power and toughness 3/3. So all of your humans are going to be base 3/3. Now that's bad because, unfortunately, if you have a human that has a power and toughness above 3/3, it's going to go down to 3/3, unfortunately.
But you shouldn't, because you're playing with +1/+1 counters.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, they're base, not their +1/+1 counters.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Base,
that's what I'm saying. So if their base goes up to 3, now those +1/+1 counters plus that base of 3 makes.
No, what I'm saying is, like, Sigarda's a 4/4. She would become a 3/3, unfortunately.
This is not my deck. This is your deck.
But I think well, I do have Sigarda, but I'm saying I have Sigarda and I have a couple other, I have a couple other humans that are over a 3/3 normally. Unfortunately, they will come down to a 3/3, but I think it's more worth the benefit of all of my 1/1s becoming 3/3s. Yes. And then when it comes in, you get 2 1/1 white human creature tokens, which is just great. That links me into my other non-human creature, which is Kerbis Harvest Celebrant.
I was about to say that, yeah.
from one of the most recent commander lists. It says it enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of mana spent to cast it, which is great because, traditionally with X creatures, you only get the mana value of X that you put in. With this, you actually get X +2 because of the 2 green pips that are on the card. It casts for X green. So it's actually going to come down with a couple extra +1/+1 counters. And then its second ability, which is why it's in the deck, says you can remove a +1/+1 counter from on it, prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn to another target creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Well, that's great because we can protect Kyler, or we can protect other, hopefully protect other creatures we out that have +1/+1 counters. Now, unfortunately, it isn't a human itself, but that's okay because it's going to get bumped no matter what. Now, you mentioned one of my other favorite little cards in this deck because I don't think it's going to get played a ton because people are going to look at the card and go, it seems kind of bad. But I think anytime you can play a creature that has an adventure on it, spell on it, it's always good. And now the adventures were a cycle of spells in Throne of Eldraine where you could cast the adventure spell on a creature. It would go into exile, and then you could cast it from exile at any time for its normal creature power. So you mentioned Giant Killer, who was one of my big picks for this deck because its adventure spell is called Chop Down. For 2 and a white, you destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That's huge. In your hand, that's another removal spell. Then, for 1 white, you get a 1/2 human that has 1 and a white tap and tap target creature. Well, that's huge because you can potentially protect yourself from a big creature before it can attack. You can do a lot of things. But anytime you can have 2 things on 1 card is always great because then that's an extra slot in your deck that card kind of acts in. Giant Killer isn't just a human in my deck; it's now a removal spell as well,
and a human,
which is great.
Shoot, not only that, I think Giant Killer's ability is not bad in of itself. 2 mana, so you have 1 colorless, 1 white. You have to tap Giant Killer to tap target creature. I mean, that could be game ending if you have a big enough creature with trample, or Flample in my case, or in both of our cases. And if they're big enough to hit to win, that's great.
And then my other favorite little kind of key combo card that I love because it really just makes our whole board better. That's a Johnny the Great-Hearted.
Oh, very nice.
I'm a huge Johnny guy. I know you like a Johnny as well. Johnny's one of my favorite planeswalkers, but a Johnny the Great-Hearted is 2 green white for a planeswalker with 5 loyalty when it comes in. It's great that it comes in with more loyalty than mana you pay. Yeah. It's always great when you get a planeswalker that does that. His +1 is so his static ability is creatures you control have vigilance, which is huge in any creature deck. Being able to attack and then also being able to block with those same creatures is everything you want.
They're going to be so big with your +1/+1 counters.
So on his +1, gain 3 life. I don't have a ton of life gain synergies in the deck, but hey, 3 life isn't bad if you ever need it.
It's great stuff.
But his main ability we're using him for is the second part, -2. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. In full disclosure, I only play one of the planeswalker. I don't expect ever to see them at the same time.
If you do, that's going to be awesome.
But in all reality, a +1/+1 counter on 12 creatures is 100% worth the -2.
Wasn't even thinking about that. So here's a fun little combo. I wanted to...
Because remember, with Kyler out...
There it is, yeah.
You're putting a +1/+ counter on every creature, and they're getting a bonus +1/+1 because you're putting that counter on Kyler.
So many counters.
The other planeswalker I'm playing, just because I've always wanted to put this card into a deck, and I think this is where it fits the best.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Is Elspeth, Sun's Nemesis. This is the Elspeth from Theros Beyond Death, our most recent time going to Theros. 2 white for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Again, we get more loyalty than we pay for, which is always great. Her -1 says up to 2 target creatures you control each get +2/+1 until end of turn. That's huge.
That is very huge.
Because that really makes our attack good.
Yes.
The only bad part about Elspeth is she doesn't have a plus. So
unfortunately,
that's okay. Her -2, create 2 1/1 human soldier creature tokens. That's great. That's what we want. And then her -3 is to gain 5 life. Again, I don't have a ton of life gain synergies, but hey, 5 life could be something. And then her last ability is that you can escape her out of your graveyard, which just means exile 4 other cards from your graveyard, and then you can cast her for her cost at sorcery speed. So you can get her back. As soon as you use her once, if you have some extra creatures in your graveyard you don't need or some extra spells, you can go ahead and exile them and get her back.
That is a little pricey for my liking. I do like this Elspeth a lot. Obviously, she's probably not everybody's favorite, but I still think it's pretty good, especially in this kind of strategy. I think it works really well. I think the key here is a lot of the tokens that we used to get, at least from back when I first started playing, was either soldier or warrior, and it never said the wonderful word human.
Yep.
And I think that's where it was a little tough for me at first, and then so many of these human cards kind of continued to just spew out of Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. And then you look at a card like Elspeth as well, and I think it just fits right in for this. One card I'm going to scream at you is...
So I want to, for the listener who's saying, but Millzy, what about the other Elspeth?
Okay, that's... Yeah.
Because there's an Elspeth from Theros that's very popular. The reason that I didn't put it in is because her +1 says put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens.
Yes.
It doesn't say human. If it said human, no question. I would pay the 6 mana all day, every day. But my thing is because they're not humans, although they still help me in going wide, they don't give me the plus that I want from Kyler. And so that's why I went with Elspeth, Sun's Nemesis, is just because she makes the humans. And I have a lot of other things that care about humans too. So why not just make the humans? The last card I want to kind of mention here in the odd choices, and it's going to come up again in a little bit, but I hate to say this out loud, but I am including a card in this deck that I kind of agreed I would never put in a deck, but I had to change the rule because the card's just too good. And that's Rick Steadfast Leader from the Walking Dead Secret Lair. I'll hold my opinion on the Walking Dead Secret Lair for another time to save this podcast from being R-rated. But Rick is really good for this deck because of what his card says. So it says, as it enters the battlefield, you choose 2 abilities from among First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. All humans you control have the chosen abilities. So for 4 mana, you're giving your whole board a combination of either First Strike, Vigilance, or Lifelink, which is giant in itself. That's worth the 4 mana, even on an enchantment. Okay?
Yeah.
His third ability says, as long as you control 4 more humans, all your humans get +2/+2. Mikey, I'm trying to go more than 4 wide. I don't know about you. This card just ends up being a lot on one card. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you the caveat that Rick currently sits above $40, so I would not advise you put it in your deck if you don't have it or have the extra money. But to me, the card just does too much good to not get a slot in the deck.
Why does the card like this exist? Oh my gosh.
Because Wizards of the Coast.
Because Wizards of the Coast. Man, I was going to go along the route of something fun, not just completely bonkers. I was going to try to talk about Sigarda Summons, which is a fun little combo card, easy for your deck for sure. It says creatures you control with a dice on it, that's a +1/+1 counter on them, have a base power and toughness of 4/4. And guess what? They also have flying and are angels now in addition to their other types. That's just pretty great in my opinion. Like, that's just good stuff. Now your 1/1s become 4/4s. Now your 3/4s become 4/4s. Now your 3 whatever become 4/4s.
And again, base power and toughness.
Yes, that doesn't.
Which is just even better.
So yeah, I'm running that in my deck as well because I feel like I just have to. I already have a great 4/4 flying, flample, beautiful Sigarda, but listen, who doesn't want their whole board to be
angels?
Beautiful 4/4 flying Sigardas.
Yes.
So yeah, let's just never talk about Rick ever again. Okay.
I'm content to do that. Yes.
All right. Good. Man, a pet card that I have in mind. I've already said it once. I will say it multiple times. Again, if it's a green deck and it has to do with combat, I'm gonna put it in the deck. It's Winds of Kalsisma. Such a great card. I'm gonna continue to harp on it as much as I possibly can. Guys, it needs to be looked at more often. I'm just messing around. What? I know you're gonna say something. Please say something.
I found you a better fog for this deck.
Oh, I don't. Oh, wait. You might have actually. I think I know what it is. Please.
There's a fog called Repel the Abominable for 1 and a white. It says prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn by non-human sources. So this includes spells. It includes other things, and all your humans still get to do
That's actually pretty great for this deck. That I might have to just...
No, it's nominal. Like, it's better in this deck.
No, it's better in this deck than in any other green deck,
but that was my way to appease you and make you happy, since you yell at me every episode for not having a fog.
I don't yell at you for not having a fog.
You do, every episode.
No. I don't yell at you. I yell at myself, really, because I think that, like, I looked at just the card fog when I was a young lad of however old I was when I first started playing Magic. And I go, okay, this card's good, but it's not that good. So moving on. It's just one card of the 99. But then I look at a card like Winds, and then I look at a card like Fog, and then I look at a card like Heroic Intervention, and just all these protection spells or whatever. And I'm like, okay, these are cards that I personally can consider, because I will go into combat overly confident and then just get completely wrecked and be
absolutely
like,
right.
I need something to get me out of this. Please get me out of this. One card I also kind of like that I put into mine is, of course, which you're probably going to sit there and go, why? It doesn't really matter if you have way too many creatures. But if I'm playing up against a deck like Millzy's deck, for instance, this is why I've enjoyed this head-to-head series, because I can compare the two like this. If I have a card like Vanquish the Horde, that's 2 white mana to destroy everything, and I'm okay with my creatures just poofing if everything on your board also poofs.
I need to make an interjection here, because I just realized that you're running 2 of my favorite green cards, and I'm not running them in this list.
Oh, please tell me that you just saw that I am running...
You're running both Triumph of the Hordes and Finale of Devastation in your list, and I'm running neither of them.
Let me dab on you real quick. Oh, yes, sir. I am running...
I love that you are just showing me up as the resident green player on our podcast. I could try to justify it, but I won't.
Dude, listen...
Triumph of the Hordes is inexcusable. Finale of Devastation, I'd actually argue, may not be the best card for this deck.
The only reason why I have it in there is because...
No, I'm not saying that it's not good for the deck.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm just saying, of the 2 of them, you could argue Triumph of the Hordes is strictly a better card between the 2 of them in this strategy. I am going to put my tail between my legs and find a way to work it in, but...
Sweet. I'm glad I got to do that for you. One other card that I added, because it just helps my combat, is a card I am wanting to play. I got this as one of my promos in my pre-release kit, or one of my pre-release kits for Midnight Hunt, and I just have yet to find a way to make it work, because it's just so much dang green mana, which you're in green, I don't know how it's such a big deal, but Unnatural Growth I think is a really cool card. At the beginning of combat, it is 1 colorless, 4 green pips. That is a lot of green, but like I said, you're in green, you should be fine. But I just, for some reason, can't get it on the board. But at the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. Millzy, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 2022. And in 2022, I'm going to try to put Sigarda on the board with Unnatural Growth, swing with an 8/8 Flample. I only know of one other 8/8 Flample, and I almost played her in our game earlier, and that is the wonderful Dragon Lord Atarka, who does 5 damage when she comes in to non-player people.
Do you know what deck I have played Unnatural Growth in, and it just...
If you say Goreclaw.
Oh.
Really?
Oh, it's in there, and it does its work. But
you gotta love mono green Stompy.
I didn't put Unnatural Growth in here, and the reason I didn't was after putting in the enchantments that I felt were really necessary, I wanted to kind of play some of the more +1/+1 counter-centric cards.
Yeah. So
I'm playing a card like Together Forever instead. Together Forever is a enchantment for 2 white. It says when it comes in, you support 2, so you put a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 creatures. And for 1 mana, you can choose a target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies this turn, you put it back to your hand. So I've just chosen to kind of play more of the cards that care about +1/+1 counters, because I'm trying to go more into that strategy. I think Unnatural Growth is a really good card for this style of deck. I think I'm just slightly still salty that I don't have Triumph of the Hordes and you do. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think it's a great card. It would be something I would consider. Like, to pull back the curtains, listeners. Like, the problem here is we're giving you a list, right? We're making a list. Most of the time, we're not spending a ton of time on this. We might look at it 2 or 3 times, but we're not optimizing this list, right? We're just making it, and when we're comparing them, right? So cards like that would be things where the more we play the deck, we start realizing there's gaps in the deck, and we start interchanging cards in and out. Maybe the more I play the deck, the more I realize a random creature or a random enchantment isn't as good as I think it is, and I swap it out for something like a natural growth or something like a Garruk's Uprising to give my creatures trample, or something like that I'm not playing right now. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's no way to know that until you play a deck. So I don't want you to look at these lists and go, why aren't you playing this? Why aren't you playing that? It's because for a bulk of the decks we're going to play on this, talk about in this series, we're not testing them beforehand.
Right.
I think if we took our decks and we played them at our playgroup table, we would make these changes because we'd go, man, I really need that.
But that's not really what we're, making head-to-head about. We're making head-to-head more about, like, this is our first glance at a certain legendary creature that we can build a deck around and just see what kind of cattywampus, fun, good strategy to show you guys, give you a little bit of an idea of, like, what you can do if you're looking to build something like this. I was going to go in to talk about Glorious Sunrise for some weird reason. I don't even know why. So we're going to move on from that. If you had the perfect opening hand for this deck, what would you have?
I think, at least from my list, we want enough lands to put Kyler out on turn 4 if we really can.
Yeah.
We really want 3 or 4 lands and a ramp or 2. We really want to get Kyler out quickly because I think, at least for my deck, he's the headstone of my strategy.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure I get him out quickly. I wrote here, if I can get an enchantment or 2 that give me a lot of value, that's a plus. If I can get a creature tutor, that's a plus. If I can get an Adeline or a Catilda or something like that that's going to push my strategy forward, that's a giant plus. But I really think that ramp and those lands are the most important part, because everything else is going to fall in line as we draw. But if we don't start off with enough lands, I kind of worry we'll never get to where we want to be.
I feel that. For me, it's a little bit different, because I'm kind of going more the cheaper spell route. Sigarda, she's important, but I can get my Coven trigger a different way if I need to. Now, don't get me wrong, having a 4/4 Flample that gives all my other creatures +1/+1 is great. So eventually, yes, I will get her onto the board. For me, I'm looking to have 2 to 3 lands, maybe a ramp spell. Same with you. If I can get a tutor, that'd be great. But my biggest thing, if I can have 1/1 and a 2 or a 3 drop in my hand as well, that's what I'm really looking for. So I can get those creatures out as fast as I can to push the advantage from the very get-go. This, for me, I was trying to make a weird green-white aggressiveness that I could. I think it kind of works in theory, of course, but I never know. You never know. You never know. You never know. But what we do know is that both of these decks, I think they're just fun, and they're not the most expensive that we've made. It's probably because there's not black in it, or it's probably not because there's not.
Green and white just have cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
They have cheap creature tutors. You have Eldamri's Call. It's $1. But you have Worldly Tutor if you have one. It's a great card, but otherwise, it doesn't rely on the expensive any card tutors that black does, right?
Right.
The priciest card in my deck is Doubling Season. The last I checked you can find copies of it for $50, anywhere up to $80. It's a very expensive card, but Doubling Season does way too much in my deck for it not to be there. It doubles +1/+1 counters. It doubles tokens when they get created. It can be cut. I think it gets cut for, I don't know, another green enchantment or something, or maybe another vigilance enabling enchantment. Maybe try to give yourself maybe a little more attack advantage. Maybe a Garruk's Uprising or another trample enabler would probably be good in that slot if Doubling Season is a little too rich for your blood. I have to protect the Great Henge and the Ozolith because I think they both do way too much for this deck.
Yeah.
and I would rather put the money there than doubling season if I had the choice. If it was those, because total together they would be about the same price. I think Great Henge and the Ozolith are more worth it for the deck than doubling season is, but I have the privilege of having a doubling season, so it's easy for me to just put it into the deck. As far as other spells, I mean, like I said, we have the privilege of green-white creature tutors not being terribly expensive, with the exception of Whirly Tutor. I know it's a little expensive, but if you want to play green in Commander, to be honest, just advise you buy one, because Whirly Tutor is such a good card.
It is, yeah, for sure. My most expensive card is unfortunately a card I did not pull today in my Eldraine box. If I would have just saved the money and bought this card, hey! But we still got some good stuff out of it. Is the Great Henge, $44 is where I'm looking at it right now. That card is just so good. It really is. I hate how good it is. My next expensive card would be like Teferi's Protection. Teferi's Protection is great if you're running any kind of creature-based deck, because you and your creatures can't just be touched for an entire turn, which is great. If you're running into too much trouble, like I said, fogs are just great for combat decks. Please, please, please consider them. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I find them to be just advantageous for me. And if I'm going to have to, spend a couple of dollars to put in a Teferi's Protection, then I will. That's okay. I don't mind protecting my, my Averbrook caretaker with a Teferi's Protection. But maybe that's just me. Would you? Can we just? Okay, I know we weren't going to say anything about him, but would you take that dingbat of a card, Rick, out of this deck, and what would you replace it with? Just a quick little, what do you think? Because I don't have it in mind, only because I'm like, I can't justify putting that in my deck, but that's just me.
Probably Audric.
Yeah.
Like something like an Audric, some sort of human that gives you attack advantage. Audric has been kind of sitting in my maybe board for this deck.
Talking about that beautiful Master Tactician?
Yeah, I really like the card. Yeah. It really helps us with combat. The only reason it's not is because I have to, unlike your list, I have to lend a little more into the +1/+1 counters.
Yeah.
So I have to play a few creatures that are slightly different just so that I can lend myself more into making my strategy go off. So I'm playing some humans that are a little bit different than yours. But yeah, I mean, Rick in this deck is giving you the what would be creme de la creme as a choice in slot. It's any other human that does fairly well, or that's popular, or that is used in a lot of EDH rec decks are going to be better, are going to be fine with Rick. Hopefully this card eventually gets a reprint and that WotC learns their lesson. But when I build, if I were to build the deck, which is our big last question, right?
Yeah.
Would we build these decks? I'm going to give this deck a fair go. I hadn't really considered green-white humans as a archetype for me until we started the series. And I have to say, after getting a few of the Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow rares that I would need out of our box together and some other stuff, and making this, I'd honestly like to give it a go. I think it is one of those decks that is going to continue to get human support over time. Green and white are colors that WotC seems to always be injecting with new things. And so maybe slots in this deck change over time, as we either get new humans or we get new support, And I think it's just a fun creature deck. I couldn't help but compare this deck to Tovolar, which we did 2 weeks ago in the series. And I love both decks, but they both are different, and they both do things differently, but they also both are fun as creature decks. So I would say I'm really honestly going to give it a go.
I agree. I say I agree. I am currently still mashing the potatoes in my wonderfulness that is my brain of green-white humans. I bought the Lenore pre-con deck. I've edited it a little bit. I have deflated it. I have inflated it. I have destroyed it. I put it back together, destroyed it again. It's currently in a shoebox with like 5 other thousands of cards, just kind of sitting there in sleeves because I just don't really know what to do with it yet. I think my biggest problem that I have with this archetype slash strategy slash deck for me building it is there are a lot of options for green white humans, a lot of good options for green white humans. There's even arguably enough options in a 3-color combination, which we've talked about this before, in the Abzin range, going green, black, and white. And I can throw in a few other of those black and white creatures, or just the straight black human creatures that can help me in a couple of different ways. Zulaport Cutthroat is just a great card, and it's a human, so like it's black, but you throw it in an Abzin commander deck, like that's not bad. Like creatures are gonna die eventually. So for me, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to build it. I'm definitely gonna try to complete it as best as I possibly can. I'm sure I'll get over myself and just end up going back to Lenore as the commander, because why not?
I think for me, it's a deck that doesn't seem terribly expensive to build, since I have most of the big pieces anyway.
You do, yeah.
It's, to me, just putting together the creatures, which that kind of is what it is.
Humans are cheap, man. Like,
we're about to get all of our mid and Vow cards reprinted with the double feature.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling prices will kind of slightly creep back down just a little bit.
They will. They should.
But in all reality, I've been wanting to make a +1/+1 counters deck for a long time. That itch has been slightly scratched with my X spells deck, the Hydras. But I'm a sucker for green-white. I've always loved green-white. Yeah, and I think this is going to be a deck that probably will creep up and up my stack of decks that I like, and maybe hopefully in the future it'll make it into the main box.
Here's what's so interesting. Was when I first started playing Magic, green and white, Selesnya, if you will, was built around the token strategy, and here we are, like, kind of more playing on the side of something token adjacent, maybe.
Yep.
Like, I mean, both of us have Adeline in the deck, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so, I mean, yeah, she's going to give you tokens every time you attack. You don't have to attack with her, but every time you attack, she's going to give you tokens. We both have, like, Join the Dance. We both have maybe one or two other... I'm not thinking of anything off the top of my head because I'm too busy worried about...
Well, you have like Torrens who makes counters.
Yeah, there we go. Tokens. Okay, yeah.
You have Maja who makes counters or
yes.
Tokens when you play lands. Like,
yes.
We have a lot of stuff that creates 1/1 humans, and I think it just fits our strategy really well.
And I think it's just really cool because my strategy is something that was just brand new, right out of the box, that just came out with just Midnight Hunt, which kind of made me upset that we didn't see it again, but it's okay. It's fine. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But you always get disappointed with WotC. It's okay.
Just like any good parent would say, I'm not mad. I'm just a little disappointed.
Yep. But it's okay. And you have a +1/+1 counters, which, yeah, you can see that in green and white throughout the ages. I can go back to one of our favorite sets, Tarkir. You know, that's how the green and white was being played with bolstering, which I love that little thing. My only problem with that is we saw bolstering in all three of those dang things. And we're not, okay, anyways. But you see +1/+1 counters. You see the token strategy in both of our decks. And I think that's just a really, really cool thing, that they're both different, but same. Same, but different.
To wrap up, what I think was really fun about this idea was we didn't fight over which route we wanted to take. No. When we sat down to plan this out, you wanted the Covenant and I wanted the +1/+1 counters, and it made it really fun. To tease a little bit about next week's episode...
Ooh, what you got for us?
Same thing. We sat down and we both chose which side we wanted to be on, and we didn't fight over it.
Yeah.
We kind of knew where we wanted to be, and I think it makes it really fun because then we make sure we have all that positive energy, brewing juices flowing, in the right direction, versus... maybe some other commanders in the future where maybe we both don't love them. It's going to happen. We're going to pick a commander on this show where we don't love them, and maybe that deck building experience isn't as fun as an episode like this where we were both really excited to build.
Yeah, it was kind of funny to pull back the curtain. I looked at this deck and I remembered the strategy, and I was like getting super excited and almost wanted to like run home. The 30 minutes it takes me to get home and like go grab the deck and like start rebuilding it because it's just a fun little thing to do. But I love that little tie back of just trying to continue with positivity and positive energy. I think that's great. You guys have no idea how much I want to try to just give you another outlet to just kind of go, man, I like listening to these guys, because they may not be that funny, but they're definitely
depending on the day.
But this is true. But they're not bringing me down, and that's great. So you can definitely look for both of these lists down in the description. The Moxfield link will be in the description. Both of these decks will be available for you to look at, to kind of make your own little bitty thing. If you want to smash these two potatoes together and just have a great ball of fun, we just encourage it as much as possible. And
all the rest of our deck lists for the head-to-head series will be on our Moxfield account. You'll see them all there every week on Saturday when these episodes release. Not only will you get the episode to listen to, but you'll also have our deck lists up on Moxfield. If you're the kind of person who wants to pull them out and look at them as we're talking, please do. Please enjoy our list. Use them however you please. Our main reason for posting them isn't just so that you guys can use them, but for me it was also getting some more data on DDH Rec. I wanted to make sure that our lists are out there and they're being counted, so that when new players who don't listen to our podcast go to look up Sigarda or Kyler or any other commanders that we've done, our lists are being tabulated for that. Our choices are being tabulated, and hopefully we make all of us as brewers make EDH Rec a better platform, because we all love it and we all use it.
Well, boys and girls of all ages, we have had a lot of fun with this one. We hope you have had fun listening to us ramble on for the past however long. We will see you next time. We hope you have a good morning, afternoon, evening, night, day, whatever. We'll see you later. Later, guys.